One of the best-known female forms in America. The opera Anna Nicole, which opened at the Royal Opera House last week, reenacts the creation of that extraordinary body and revels in its owner's ceaseless compulsion to show it off.
I wanna blow you all, blow you all, a kiss.
The opera tells the story of the short, self-destructive life of a small-town American waitress turned stripper turned Playboy centerfold who achieved international notoriety aged just 26 when she married an 89-year-old Texan billionaire.
Sounds like this. Ooh, Jimmy Choo. Jimmy Choo. That's right.
With a score by Mark Anthony Turnage and a libretto from the co-author of Jerry Springer the Opera, Richard Thomas, Anna Nicole is a critique of contemporary tabloid culture and a parable of life lived in the media spotlight.
So my first question to you is, where's the money? Show me the money.
Tell us about it.
Dutch soprano Ava Maria Westbrook takes on the title role, with tenor Alan Oak playing her infatuated octogenarian husband and baritone Gerald Finley as her lawyer and sometime lover Howard K. Stern. A chorus of journalists follows the action on stage, observing and commenting on every element of Anna Nicole's very public life.
When she rose and she soared to global fame, every man, woman knew her name.
Opera companies want to attract new and younger audiences, so can this very topical tragedy both appeal to a broader public while satisfying lovers of classical music?
Anna's a toughie, she comes from the school of hard knocks. She's old school.
Old school, hard school. Come to think of it, no school.
So, John, the interior of the Royal Opera in Covent Garden is decorated with the face of Anna Nicole, even covering the royal crest. Do you think that her life, do you think it is good subject matter for an opera?
I came away unconvinced of that, I must say. I mean, there's considerable excitement before, as it were, the curtain goes up, and there is a frisson for the first 5 or 10 minutes of it, this extraordinary kind of luxuriant tawdriness of the staging and the costumes and the kind of delight in incongruity which is there for the audience. I'm not sure they're particularly a younger audience than usually go, but they're an audience probably who usually...
Or if they even knew who Anna Nicole Smith was before they bought their programme, perhaps.
But there's a kind of sort of shared excitement about the kind of rhyming profanities that you're hearing for the first time at the Royal Opera House.
Yes.
But that seems to me that the sort of delight in incongruity seems to be the one thing that's going to keep it afloat all the time. And I'm not sure it's quite enough to do that.
And Paul, the theme of celebrity is a well-visited one. Do you think this offered any new take on
Nothing
that?
at all, no. It's a grotesque gimmick. And oddly enough, Anna Nicole Smith comes out of it as a major cultural icon, and the opera doesn't. For me, one of the reasons, if you're going to take a popular culture subject and you're going to take this kind of idea of approaching the new world, then I think the music itself has to be something really, really special. And it comes away as being, yet again, a kind of an impression of an opera. There's no great song that we can now associate with Anna Nicole Smith, which I think is terrible. And I think that, if you're really going to do it this way, then I think you're going to have to come out with something that, is genuinely a pop culture event, and this just isn't. It's an idea of one, and it's a suggestion that this might be the way to go, but that overwhelms things.
And with the music, there was a sort of interweaving of jazz, wasn't there, and we had a guitarist from Led Zeppelin as part of it.
Yeah, there was. But for me, the evening went along on two completely different courses. On the one hand, you had the music was very fascinating. I'd really like to hear it again without what was going on stage. Music was fascinating and did, as you say, try and cross cultural boundaries. The singing was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. What was going on?
Maria Westbrook.
Yeah, terrific. What was going on stage which was, as you say, just tawdry, tabloid celebrity junk, actually. It was not interesting at all. They didn't go into these people's lives. There was no interiority in those characters at all.
I think that's the problem, right? It's a superficial take on a story about shallowness, and then what it does is it's amazed to find that these people are shallow. Well, you plucked shallow people, and then all you did was say shallow things about them, and everything, it's very facile, it's very glib. My problem was really the libretto, even more than the music.
Absolutely terrible.
It is just very, and it relies entirely on the shock value of those obscenities, and that's its only kind of humor. And by the way, it mispronounces some of the American ones as well. It's bodacious tatas, not tatas. Which, you know, kind of sat there bothered about that, and then you realize it's not working if you're being distracted by things like that. I think that the problem is that it is actually taking a lot of cheap shots and shooting fish in a barrel. It's taking vulgar people and then mocking them for their vulgarity.
Doesn't it stay at that superficial level all the way through? I mean, isn't there a development as it goes on in the second half? Isn't it become more poignant with the death of her son?
Well, they think there is.
Exactly.
I mean, there is a development. There's a change from comedy to would-be tragedy, and you can feel that. You can feel it amongst the audience, because people are laughing a lot at first, and they laugh less and less and less, and then at the end, you don't, I think, just get a tragedy. I think you get an appeal for a kind of moral, and it's she sings out, you know, America, you whore, and that's
so
the
America's
moral.
to blame.
Yes.
Exactly. So again,
I think
The death of the son actually was very good, I thought, because I mean, you haven't heard it's mute all the way through, Daniel, and then he dies. A drug overdose, is zipped up in a body bag, pokes his head out dead, and sings what is just a whole litany of the drugs that he has taken in his life. So that is a very poignant
But I think the problem begins as soon as they chose that subject.
Yeah.
And then they're condemned with that subject. And the whole point of it ultimately is to get people to go, I don't usually go to the opera. I went to the opera and I really enjoyed it because of the subject. But within that, this is not a great piece of work, and it has to be a great piece of work. And musically and from the libretto, it is just not a great piece of work. And that is absolutely
it just doesn't have anything to add to the story. It just doesn't tell us anything that we didn't know when we went in there, and in fact, if anything, it tells us less.
But the only people it probably does is those that come to Anna Nicole Smith for the first time, which is kind of the opera goers anyway,
exactly.
who might think, oh, this is
But opera has had success, hasn't it, with contemporary themes? I know it's a lot of time ago, Nixon in China.
This is always the argument.
Yeah.
But in this case, this doesn't work, because it's not about the fact that it's an unusual or controversial subject. It's what has been done with the subject.
And they haven't had enough ideas about it. Exactly. There is one good thing, that she's followed around by these black-clad, sinister figures with television cameras as heads. Now that suggests, it's like the Greek Furies in a way, it suggests that she is made by the media, destroyed by the media.
You want more of that
would have been quite interesting.
But they also really sentimentalize her. Sorry, just one last thing. They really sentimentalize her, and by all accounts, she was quite a venal character. So I also thought there was a lot more depth that is actually in the story that they totally failed to bring out.
Okay, well, Anna Nicole is on again tomorrow and on Tuesday and Friday. All the performances are sold out, but you can try for seats on the day.